Once upon a time, in a quiet village called Obinna, surrounded by thick forests and red dusty paths, people lived simple and peaceful lives. The villagers were farmers, hunters, and fishermen. Every morning the women carried baskets to the farms, the men prepared their tools, and the children ran around laughing and playing. Life in Obinna moved slowly like the river beside the village. But in that village there was one boy who was very different from the others. His name was Tunde was about 14 years old. He was quiet, gentle, and always lost in thought. While the other boys loved wrestling, climbing trees, and chasing goats around the village, Tunde preferred to sit alone at the edge of the great forest. The forest beside Obinna was not an ordinary forest. The elders said the forest was older than the village itself. They said spirits lived inside it. Some villagers believed the forest protected the village. Others believed it held dangerous secrets. Because of this, children were warned many times, do not go too deep into the forest. But Tunde was not afraid of the forest. In fact, it felt like home to him. Almost every evening, when the sun began to hide behind the tall trees, Tunde would sit under a giant iroko tree near the forest entrance. He would sit quietly and listen. The wind moving through the leaves, the distant sound of birds, the rustling of animals moving through the bushes. To Tunde, the forest was alive. And sometimes it felt like the forest was speaking. At first, Tunde thought it was just his imagination, but one evening, something happened that changed his life forever. The first voice that evening, the sky was orange and purple as the sun slowly disappeared. Tunde sat under his favorite tree like always. Suddenly the wind became very still. Even the birds stopped singing. Then Tunde heard it, a whisper, soft, deep, ancient. Child. Tunde quickly stood up and looked around. There was nobody there. His heart started beating fast. Again the voice came, carried by the wind. Child of Obinna, listen. Tunde's hands began to shake. He looked at the trees, the bushes, and the empty path. Who is there? He asked quietly. The forest became silent again. For a moment, Tunde thought maybe he imagined it. But then the wind returned, and the voice spoke again. Danger is coming to your village. Tunde felt a cold chill run through his body. What danger? He asked. But the voice did not answer again. The wind stopped. The forest returned to normal. Birds began to sing again. Everything looked peaceful, as if nothing had happened. But Tunde knew what he heard, and it frightened him. The warning no one believed. Tunde ran back to the village as fast as he could. Eyes were aching. His mind was full of fear. When he reached the village square, many elders were sitting together, discussing matters. Tunde walked toward them nervously. Elders, he said, trying to catch his breath. The oldest man there, Elder Bako, looked at him. What is it, boy? Why are you running like a goat chased by a dog? Tunde swallowed. I heard something in the forest. The men laughed. Did a monkey talk to you? One of them joked. But Tunde was serious. The forest spoke to me, he said. Now the laughter became louder. The forest, one man said. Yes, Tunde replied nervously. It said danger is coming to our village. The elders looked at each other. Elder Bako shook his head slowly. He said kindly, boy, do not speak. You must have been dreaming. Another elder added, maybe you stayed too long in the sun. The men laughed again. Tunde felt embarrassed, lowered his head and quietly walked away. That night he could not sleep. The words kept repeating in his mind. Danger is coming to your village. The stranger arrives 3 days later. Something strange happened. A traveler arrived in Obinna. Nobody had seen him before. He was tall, dark, and wore long flowing clothes. Around his neck were strange beads and charms. He carried a staff carved with symbols. Nobody in the village understood. The traveler introduced himself. My name is Dibala, he said. I am a healer. The Keelajars were curious. Many villages around the area had healers and medicine men, but this man looked different, more powerful, more mysterious. Soon word spread quickly. Dibala said he could preakness, remove curses, and protect the village from evil spirits. At first, People were careful, but then something happened. An old woman who had been sick for months visited Dibala. The next day, she was walking again. Another man who had terrible headaches went to see him. After one night, the headaches disappeared. Soon the entire village began to believe Dibala was a powerful healer. People lined up outside his hut every day. They brought him food, goats, and gifts. Dibala became very respected in Obinna. But while everyone trusted him, Tunde felt something was wrong. The second voice, one evening, Tunde returned to the forest. He sat again under the big Iroko tree. The wind was quiet. The sky was turning dark. Then the voice returned. "Child of Obinna." Tunde quickly stood up. "You came back," he whispered. "Yes." The voice sounded heavier this time. "The danger has entered your village." Tunde's heart began to pound. "Is it the traveler?" he asked. For a moment the forest remained. The voice answered, "Yes." Tunde felt fear rise inside him. "But everyone believes he is a healer," he said. The wind moved through the trees. "He heals with one hand," the voice said slowly, "but with the other." Quetest. Tunde's hands became cold. "What do you mean?" he asked. But the voice had already faded away. Strange things begin after that night. Strange things started happening in Obinna. At first, it was small things. Healthy goats suddenly died. Chickens disappeared at night. Then people started getting sick. A strong hunter fell ill without any reason. A young child became weak and could not walk. Many villagers went to Dibala for help. He treated them with strange powders and rituals. Sometimes people got better, but sometimes they became worse. And then something even more frightening began. Children started disappearing at night. The village became filled with fear. Parents began locking their doors early. Fires were kept burning through the night, but nobody suspected Dibala. The secret of the forest. One night, Tunde ran back to the forest. He needed answers. He said softly into the dark trees, "Tell me the truth." The wind slowly rose. The leaves began to move, and the voice returned. "The stranger feeds on your people." Tunde felt his chest tighten. "What do you mean?" The voice spoke again. "He takes their life force to grow stronger." Tunde's eyes widened. "He is not a healer," the voice continued. "He is a dark sorcerer." At that moment the wind blew violently. The trees creaked. The forest felt alive. "You must stop him," the voice said. "But how?" Tunde asked desperately. The voice whispered one final thing. "Expose the truth before it is too late." The truth revealed the next morning, the village's square. Another child had disappeared during the night. Fear and anger filled the air. Stepped forward. His heart was beating fast. "I know who is responsible," he said loudly. The crowd became quiet. "Who?" someone asked. Tunde pointed toward Hout. "The healer," the villagers gasped. Elder Bako frowned. "Boy, be careful with your words." But Tunde continued, "He is not healing us. He is the one causing the sickness." The crowd became angry. Some villagers shouted, "Enough of your foolish stories." But suddenly, something strange happened. The sky became dark. The wind began to howl. And Dibala slowly stepped out of his hut. He looked at Tunde and smiled, a cold, terrifying smile. Then something Ayimputi happened. His shadow moved on its own. It stretched across the ground like a living creature. The villagers stepped back in fear. Dibala's eyes began glowing. His voice changed, deep, monstrous. "You were not supposed to discover the truth." "Boy," the churs craned. Now they understood. Tunde had been right all along. The battle for the village. Dibala raised his staff. Dark wind rushed across the village, but the elders quickly gathered. Began shouting Osis prate pros. The wind grew stronger. Dust filled the air. Then suddenly, a powerful wind came from the forest. The trees roared like thunder. It was as if the forest itself had come to protect the village. The wind struck Dibala. His staff cracked, his power weakened. The villagers joined together and drove him away. Dibala ran toward the forest and disappeared forever. The boy who was right after that day Peace slowly returned to Obinna. The sickness disappeared, the strange deaths stopped, and no more children went missing. The villagers finally understood something important. They had ignored the one person who tried to warn them. From that day forward, nobody called Tunde strange anymore. Instead, they gave him a new name, the Listener of the Forest. And whenever the wind moved through the tall trees, the villagers remembered the boy who listened when nobody else did. Moral lesson: never ignore the quiet voice of wisdom. Sometimes the person people laugh at is the one who sees the truth first.